what made you realize someone in your family was irredeemably evil? The second my baby girl popped out of my kitty cat, I was extremely scared of my husband, because it was obvious that he'd go to any lengths to protect her. "Please don't go near Isadora," he said to one of the nurses that looked slightly unkempt. His tone wasn't rude, just assertive and stern. The first few months of Isadora's life were hard, but my husband, unlike some of the other Reddit stories on here, made things easier. He cooked me anything I craved, in exactly the way I liked it. And whenever I started crying for no reason, or felt that postpartum gray blanket of sadness blinding me from seeing anything good in my life, he would be patient with me. Didn't force me to act happy. Just held my hand and kissed my forehead until the wave of sadness finally passed. And for those who don't know, babies usually experience their first smile at 6 weeks. But Isadora was so happy in the home we built that she smiled at just 4 weeks old. Her joy filled the entire house with so much happiness it was like you could feel it in your hands. Until she turned 4, me and my husband made sure to closely vet anyone who entered our home or came into contact with Isadora, family or otherwise. And on her 4th birthday, we allowed her to more freely socialize with others. After all, it was just a few months before her first day of school. So we figured it would also be good practice for the future. So we invited my sister, my brother-in-law, my mother-in-law, and all their kids. It ended up being around 15 people, and Isadora was practically being showered in gifts all day. We were at around the 5-hour mark when my back started to ache. I didn't want to ruin the mood, so I just put my hands on the small of my back and staggered over to the nearest wooden chair. But my husband instantly noticed and insisted on helping me lie down in bed. We would only be gone for 5 minutes, and since Isadora was surrounded by what we thought was trusted family, we figured everything would be okay. But it wasn't. Because while my husband tucked me into bed, we heard it. The sound no parent ever wants to hear. Their young child pleading for help. My husband instantly clenched his fist and sprinted down to the living room to see what was going on. I knew he was angry because he was using the tone he only used when he was trying his hardest not to shout in front of the kids. But I could hear the rage. I later found out that he had found marks left on Isadora's wrists. "Who effing did this?" my husband asked, his voice cold. The entire house was so silent I could practically hear the walls breathing. "Daddy, don't be mad. She didn't mean it," Isadora said. Her voice was so innocent it made me tear up. "Honey, you need to tell me who did it so that I can keep you safe." There was a long pause, and I guess she ended up pointing at my mother-in-law, because that's when my husband told Isadora to come upstairs to me, before kicking everyone else out of the house. "She spilled juice on my shirt," I heard my mother-in-law scream, as if it was the most justified reason in the entire world. "Just count yourself lucky that you're a woman, because that's the only thing preventing me from turning your skull into sidewalk paint." Again, the entire house was silent. Isadora looked up at me with her big brown eyes filled with fear. I reassured her that everything was okay, and none of it was her fault. That adults are always responsible for protecting children, and if they ever do anything to hurt a child, they must be punished. She nodded and hugged me super tight. My mother-in-law was her first introduction to the world being unsafe, and in that moment I knew that I could never forgive her. And I guess my husband was thinking the same thing, because that's when he said the words, "You will never ever step within 5 miles of this house, and you will never know Isadora. Get the F out of my home." But, get out. My wonderful husband ruined any chance of her arguing with him, and soon I heard the front door slam shut. He then ran upstairs and we all sandwich cuddled for a while. I thought that was that. Spoiler alert, it very much wasn't. Because the next day, when Isadora came home from school, her face was completely swollen and red from crying. I called my husband to come, so we could tackle whatever was burdening her as a family. "I hate you," she yelled, while pointing at my husband. We had no idea what was going on, and that's when she said, "You hurt Mommy. You're the worst," before grabbing my hand and trying to pull me out of the front door, away from him. I crouched down to her height, held her hands, and did the regulation breathing exercises we had practiced together. Once she had stopped hyperventilating, she told us what was really going on. My other mommy told me Daddy was kissing another woman. I watched as the color drained from my husband's face. You see, other mommy is what Isadora called her mother-in-law, and she had just convinced her that my husband was cheating on me. My husband completely lost his cool. The rest of the full story is on the channel and linked below.